And welcome to Generation Movie. Oh no, what's happening here? Okay, what are you eating? You're just like
Uh,
just eating cake.
wait. Yeah, I'm eating my Tom Cruise cake.
What?
You know, every year at Christmas time, Tom Cruise sends out um, chocolate coconut cake to like all his friends and stuff. Didn't you get one?
You didn't get it. You didn't get it, Tom Cruise coconut cake. You're
No,
making me feel bad.
I got this at Garrity's.
Um, yeah, we're goofy tonight. We're changing our time. Thank you for joining us. We know we're a little early, but we're gonna do this going forward just because it makes it a little easier on me, a little easier on Rich, and to be honest, a little easier on you guys, right? Because we're 9 o'clock. We're right in the right hour, I think, for our show. And it's a good decision all around. We were doing it for a while because of if Joe ever needed to get in and produce, but he hasn't had to. So knock on wood, now that we're changing, hope it all works. So I was thinking about some different stuff. We're gonna do our regular show, of course, today with Gremlins. But there is some big news that's been floating around the Webernet today. Um, First look at David Cornsweet as the Man of Steel will release Thursday morning at 9 a.m.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, is that Pacific or
Pacific is 6 a.m.
Oh, God bless
9
him.
a.m. The wait is almost over. But he released it with a. I can't get it to work. I can't get the picture to work. Maybe I can. Hold on. But it is a gorgeous picture, and it just said Superman down the bottom, July 11th, 2025, and then it said "Look up," which is that's about right, bitches.
That's
Look
that's a
up.
perfect teaser poster that they released. Um, did
The
you
teaser.
did you catch the one with the little bit of music from the film? Our first
Yeah,
tease of
I'm not
the
gonna
score.
lie to you, Rich. Didn't it sound Williams-ish?
It
You know
had a
what?
very it felt very Zimmery in the terms of the strings, but
It had
it
a
does have a little
Williams.
bit of a dun, 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 right there at the end of
Yeah.
that little
So
segment they gave us. So
I think it's probably my most. Is it your most anticipated film of 2025?
yes, at
I
this point, yeah.
I just think it's one of those things where it's like you can't not get excited about it, right? And it's
Hmm.
like it's one of those movies where it's like you just want to get here as soon as
Oh,
possible. Like, can we please get there? Everybody intact. Everybody,
hmm
making big plans to go see it, and
yeah, and
it just
I mean, I
feels.
was literally watching because yesterday was the anniversary of the release of Superman the movie. So I was watching it again last night for the millionth time. I think I messaged you at one point in the middle of
You
the
did. You're
movie.
like, they don't seem very fair on Krypton.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. Okay, let's tangent to that for a second. Jor-El, the great Marlon Brando, is basically he's presenting the case as to why the Phantom Zone villains, or
Should be put in
why
the
the
Phantom Zone.
General Zod is, why they should go be thrown into the Phantom Zone, and so we would assume he's the prosecutor in this case.
He's even
Of
carrying a very big stick. It's a big light
yes,
glow stick,
and
and he's wearing a different
so,
outfit and
so all
everything. And
the
it's
all
like,
the glowing heads say guilty, 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 guilty. So they're the judges or the jury,
and then
judges
he
and
says
jury.
guilty, and he presses the fucking button.
It- no, Zod says the decision has to be unanimous. Jor-El, you have to find us guilty too. And I'm like, well, of course he's going to find you guilty. He's the freaking prosecutor in this case. What kind of
Yeah,
conflict of
I,
interest is this?
I
This is
don't know.
insane.
I think I've been excited for. I was excited for Cavill. I was excited for Batman versus Superman. I was excited. Then they
Mhm.
Justice League, and they made me. They broke me of that. But look at the beauty of this picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in full. It's not as flowy. This movie has potential.
Yeah.
It could be the greatest 2 weeks in the history of nerddom. Because we're
Do you have
getting
the original teaser for Man of Steel there?
where just lying around on my computer.
Yes. Or can you pull it up real quick? Can you find it real quick? Even I'll vamp for you while you're doing it.
Okay,
But
you talk.
yes, but so I went back and I watched, Superman as I do, and there's 3 moments that just emotionally wallop me every time. Two in a bad way, and one in a good way. The first night sequence from rescuing Lois with the helicopter all the way through,
Amazing, incredible.
it still works. I think it will always work. It's some of the best superhero filmmaking in that it captures the character through the action. Yeah, okay, you get a couple of cheesy jokes like, bad vibrations. But overall, though, Chris Reeves is the best who's ever done it. And I'm hoping, for this new guy to come along and knock it out of the park also. And just that poster of that James Gunn released today, Superman looking up, looking forward. Yeah, look up. Sounds very hopeful, right?
Yes. It's okay. I can't get the trailer. I have it, but I can't get it. I can't download it. Okay.
The poster, the teaser poster for Man of Steel, though, was all dark, and he was looking down.
Yes.
And if you remember,
this is not a good picture representation. The poster, his cape is flowing in the proper fashion. This looks like him going, and the look up. It's not only look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's playing. It's Superman. It's look up. Look forward to something. Get your head down. Your head's down. Everybody's down. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Look up. We got something to look forward to. And I just, yes, Rich. Look at that
this
S,
might be the
man.
right movie at the right time for us.
It might be. It very much might be, because part of the problem with Superman recently has been, how do you write him away from truth, justice, and the American way? And the answer is you don't. Right? You don't. You realize that he stands for something more than the rest of us. Did I tell you about, like, somebody asked me a question about why I like wearing Superman shirts? And it's like, you think you're Superman? I'm like, no, I just love Superman. Like, that's an idiotic thing when somebody's wearing a Superman shirt. I'm not Shaquille O'Neal. I don't have a separate, Man of Steel tattooed on my arm. I don't think I'm Superman. I just love Superman. I've always loved Superman. I was in '78. I was 4 years old. I was taken to parties in Buffalo, New York, West Seneca Falls, New York. Taken to parties with the General Cinema Theater my dad worked at, and I could do the entire courtroom scene, all the way through the guilties. Like, I could do all of Jarrell's part. So, and when that movie left the theater in 6 canisters, as they used to do, I walked it out and cried when it left.
Aww,
so,
buddy,
yeah, it was fucking traumatic. I remember it. I remember it vividly. I also have the kryptonite that the theater sold. Like, so I have my kryptonite. I still have my kryptonite rock, glows in the dark. And it's one of those movies that I grew up loving. Let's get some comments. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Ken McKernan. Sure, eat that in front of the diabetic. That's true. It's okay. He's
what can I say?
Son
of a bitch.
He's a prick. Right on the holidays. Hey, boys. Hey, Raven. That cake
Raven.
sounds yummy. Yeah, as he was flapping his gums together. It was great. I can never stay awake for the ending of the 10 p.m. shoot. That is why we are now at 9 p.m.
I was having trouble, Ken.
Hey, Peter Wolview, good to see you back again. Finally, guys, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Ken, original poster was posted as a GIF. Yes, it was posted as a GIF, but it was a glorious gift, and it was a GIF, and it was just a gift. Oh God, Superman should we have to wait to talk about it on Loud and Nerdy all weekend. No, I'm gonna talk about it because the trailer's gonna hit this upcoming weekend right around. It's hitting because it's gonna play on the front of Mufasa and Sonic. Is what's it's perfect. It's perfect time for him. For graphic marketing POV, it's a great poster and slogan. It is. It's amazing. Where you want to wear? I got a Hawaiian shirt for my birthday. I'm wearing it proudly. It is what it is. I'm good. I'm good. I just hope. Let's see. Cheetah. We got to talk about this. I just hope Gunn doesn't screw it up like he did Guardians of the Galaxy. You mean the three most successful Marvel? I disagree with that sentiment because I think the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are pretty great, and I think they pretty much stuck the landing on all of them. So I don't think Gunn's going to screw up anything. I think Gunn's. I've never, to put it bluntly, I've never felt more excited, and I felt like he was in better hands, Superman, the character, than he is with James Gunn. Like I just feel, I feel like Gunn gets it, and Superman is a character you definitely have to get. Right? It has to be get. So let's, we're talking about exciting comic book movies. Let's talk about trash. Let's get the trash out of the way. I saw a movie this weekend, so you people don't have to. I saw this. And while the abs are impressive and not a special effect, so here's a good, fun review of this movie. It's the best of the terrible Spider-Man movies. And so people might go in and they might like.
You still can't limbo under that low bar, though, buddy.
Yeah, it's no, you can limbo. It's the best of it's the most cohesive of a terrible set of movies that have brought nothing to the conversation and have almost ruined an entire studio just on their terrible.
I mean, reputation-wise, possibly. Financially, no.
You can't.
The movies are still so in the black. They can make a bunch more of these and still keep losing money, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, honestly. But you can't trust them anymore, and that's why we're hopefully this is the end. I sat there waiting through the credits. There was nothing at the end of the credits, Rich. I look at it as a positive sign that they have gotten the point. And then the other point they get is the amazing. It grossed $11 million on 3,200 screens. That's not putrid. Good. That's putrid, Rich. Putrid. It got outgrossed by Moana 2 in its third week of release, $26 million, and Wicked, $22 million in its fourth week release. Those two, girl kid-friendly movies are kicking the snot out of everything. Moana 2 is at 337 after 3 weeks. Wicked's at 359, and they've already started selling tickets for the Christmas sing-along because you couldn't sing the first 5 weeks of the movie, but you can sing on Christmas Day if you want to go see Wicked with your family. And I think the interesting thing there is, I was looking up box office numbers where and you and I have talked about this. You need product. We've had product. And hopefully we get a boost come this weekend with Mufasa and Sonic. And I think we have an upset brewing. I'm just between you and I think we have an upset brewing. I think even though Mufasa is going to have all of the big high screens, right? The 4D and the IMAX and the Dolby, I think it might lose. I think Sonic could beat it this weekend. Just because of it's the first time the little nephews have decided to want to go to an opening night of something and drag along as many people as they can. We have an entire row in one of the theaters at our theater. An entire row is 21 seats. And then we have five others in another row. Just so everybody can go. So I think it's going to be interesting. I also saw War of the Rohirrim. We can talk about that really quick. You know way more about this stuff than I do. I got up thinking to myself, this movie is made entirely for Rich. because it's about appendices and it's about characters that don't have names, so we're going to give them names. And then not in a bad marketing way, but I found out kind of like after coming out of Craven, I found out that it's Craven and War of the Rohirrim were made for the exact same reason, but one has more quality than the other, right? So War of the Rohirrim is good, but it's not going to do great. But unfortunately, its whole purpose, however, is to make sure that New Line can continue in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings business.
Yeah.
So, like, hopefully we get live action things and things we like. I would say that it only cost $30 million to make, so they don't really care. And also,
again, they've made there's so much in the black with the the previous.
It made 4.5 million. It made 4.5 million at 2,600 screens.
30 million's like catering, the catering budget, at Weta
for a home Steve sequence. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a lot of money. But I think the interesting thing is you were talking about it. It is from an appendice. I'm wondering if we're going to get more of these side views into the world, animated or not. And then I'm also wondering, are there a lot of appendices that can be done in this way, where you have a prominent character from the first set of movies, introduce it? Like, is there like a bunch of elf stuff that Legolas can come in and go, hey?
There's. I mean, if
it's unending, correct?
If I known we were going to go there this quickly, I would have, before we started, grab my copy of the Lord of the Rings and just page through the appendices, going, "That's a story. There's a story. That's a story." And there's a lot. Tolkien kind of fleshed out his world in fairly decent detail, mostly for his own enjoyment. And then, after he died, Christopher started, publishing like the histories of Middle Earth and stuff like that. Yes,
because enjoyment can also mean money. Lots and lots of money.
But Tolkien was actually kind of resistance to the idea of even putting the appendices into the Lord of the Rings. That was kind of done at the insistence of his publisher. But just looking through those histories, okay, you kind of see, oh, okay, this seems like an interesting story. This king of Rohan who got into a beef with somebody from one of the neighboring kingdoms, and that ultimately led to this big siege at the Hornburg, and that's why the Hornburg is now called Helm's Deep, because it was named after him. So yeah, and there's enough details that we could draw up a narrative. One of the key figures in the notes that in the appendices is an unnamed daughter of the king, and so
gets a name and becomes the hero of the movie.
So yeah,
it's a good. If you like the Lord of the Rings, it's a 2-hour movie.
Point of view character. For reasons that would be spoilery for me to mention otherwise, but and so
she's a character with two brothers and a dad who is Hammerhand is his surname. A couple things, we got some stuff going on. Okay, Sheeta is such a troll. Laugh out loud. Troy Hill, I agree. And then Raven wrote, "I'm kidding. I love Cheetah's arguments." And then, "Oh gods, Missy loved it. I heard his editing was horrible. Everything about it is horrible. The designs of the characters. The Rhino is so bad. It's so bad, and so is Chameleon. They're so bad. It's just unbelievable. Nosferatu. I think everybody's excited about Nosferatu. The movies that are have you seen it? You saw it?
Yeah. Let me check to make sure I can say if I've seen it or not.
Jesus Christ. So you've seen it. We don't need to go into it.
Yes, I have. Yeah, okay. I needed to check to see if the embargo was lifted. I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and it's amazing, folks. It's so fantastic.
This is an interesting argument here. The problem with the Sony Spidey movies are they feature characters the casual game of Guardians of the Galaxy fans don't know about. Let me understand this comment, Cheetah. So you think the problem with the Sony Spider-Man movies is they feature characters casual Guardians of the Galaxy fans don't know. But the Guardians of the Galaxy characters, before James Gunn made a movie about them, were as obscure can be.
Mm.
It is the problem with that statement.
Honestly, if you had gone out to John Q. Public, walking out of a movie theater, a year before Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and said, "Hey, do you know who Rocket Raccoon is?" They would say, "Oh, isn't he in that song by the Beatles?"
Was he with Rocky and Bullwinkle? Like it would have
Yeah,
been. It would any number of. But what I'm saying is, it's not the problem with the Sony Spidey movies are not that they feature characters. People know the characters. People know Spider-Man villains. The problem with the Sony Spidey movies is they don't have Spider-Man. They don't have Spider-Man, and they don't want to use him. They don't want to use Tom Holland's very lengthy, extravagant contract on movies that don't make money. I can see Sonic winning as well. Yeah, it's about to happen. You heard it here first. So Nosferatu's good. I'm gonna like it. I'm very tough. I like good horror movies, Rich. I don't like junk.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. Yeah, spoiler, it's most definitely going to be on my 10 best of the year, which I have to write at some point next week.
I would
drop that between Christmas and New Year.
I would imagine it's going to be there for me as well. Game of not sure to comic fans, neither was Star-Lord. I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is,
Morbius.
You can't make.
I would say comic book fans.
Yeah, I would just say you can't make the argument that the Spider-Man movie. The problem with the Spider-Man movies is that nobody gets them because the characters are obscure. Venom is one of the most popular without a reason characters in the history of comics. He's just a boring character. I think Hardy's done as best as possible with him, right? But overall, not a fun character to deal with, play with, write about.
I'm kind of in like the same camp as Sam Raimi in terms of Spider-Man villains. I like the old classic villains. So that way, I was excited about a Craven movie far more than I would ever be excited about a Venom movie. And, people seem to be flocking to Venom and not Craven. So, oops.
I will say, Raven, you hit it on the net. They're badly written. They're badly written movies. Special effects is like a tier lower. The production cost is astounding, though. They cost like $120 million for Craven. I don't see a way they make their money back. And Venom's entire backstory has been ignored. Yes, but Venom's the least of your problems with regards to let's talk Madam Web. Let's talk Morbius. Let's talk, being the worst of those movies. Tom Savini looks like Craven was young and should have played the part. I know you said that, Jerry. I agree with you. And that is a shame because it's an amazing one. His backstory is great, but it's one of those things where I think on screen he's a boring character. There's not a lot. He growls. He cuts people in two. Blah. And then he was in Spider-Man 3, and it was just, how do I put this mildly? It was the shits. It was it was just bad. Natasha is gonna be trying to join us as late as we go tonight. So we're gonna try to get her in when she has a very big production meeting with her new play tonight. So we moved things up, but then we didn't take into account that, and that is my fault. So forgive me. But one of the things we're gonna do with her when she gets here, we're gonna talk about the 3 movies that made 2024 special for us. For each of us, and just 3 movies. Just some lists may have the same movies on them, some may not. But Natasha did watch Gremlins, so we'll get a brief how she feels about Gremlins after I had to watch Santa Claus the movie last week. I'm sure my fun Christmas movie with little creatures is going to get ripped apart. While David Huddleston and John Lithgow and Dudley Moore will be fine, just fine. I also saw. I do want to talk about this. I saw Carry On, which is this hot movie on Netflix. Taron Egerton, Jason Bateman. It is a Christmas movie, but it is an action movie. And
It is not a continuation of the British comedy series from the 60s.
No, it is not. And what I would say about it is, it's not the best, but it's also not the worst action movie you're going to see this year. And also, I would say, I will warn people, however, who are participating in this little thing. Did I bring it up? Where is it? No, I didn't. Oh, hold on. If you're participating in this, you should not. You should, around the 1 minute, 10-minute mark. There's a car chase, and you should not watch that sequence in the movie because you will be out of Whamageddon, and it is the first time I've ever been out, and it was because I wanted to watch Carry On so badly, and I came home on Friday night and I did the research, I checked, but then it fucking was still in the goddamn movie, and
It wasn't listed on the.
It wasn't listed on any of the things. It is listed. I can show you what I put up after, after the whatchamacallit. I was so pissed. I was so angry. I was sitting there. I was like, I'm kind of liking the movie, but fuck me. Fuck me. It doesn't happen often. You know what I mean? Where I get totally, and I just missed it.
I carefully curate all the music I listen to anyways. Literally, I listen to 3 hours of radio a week, and that's when one of the local radio stations reruns old episodes of America's Top 40 with Casey Kasem. And
with Shaggy?
Yeah.
You mean Shaggy.
So I know I will always win Whamageddon because I don't like the song enough that I would make certain that it was definitely on playlists of mine or anything like that. So it would feel like a cheat to be part of a Whamageddon group, and I appreciate that you do send me that invite every year, and I'm not telling you to stop or anything, because maybe some year I'll get crazy and I was like, okay, let's see what happens. I'll listen to more radio and
Well, I mean, the goal is to not get caught. The goal is to avoid it like the plague it is. And I know some people like it. But I got caught, and it was the first time I've ever been caught. And that was even with people trying to catch me. I've had at least 2 times where people tried whamicide on me, where they sent me a fucking it's mean. It is mean. And it's cruel, and it's like, but it's happening a lot more now because we're in a darker place. But that's, it is what it is. I also, when we get to the Christmas portion of the evening, I have my adorable nephews went to see Santa, which is the most important thing in the world. And they met Santa, and they were. My nephew Caleb looked as if he just looked like he was done with Santa. Like he just had his arms crossed, and like my nephew Jacob was like, "This is the best thing ever at Santa." He looked like he had won some sort of elf contest where he was the elf of the year or something. Better picture. Thank you, Ken, for being God among men. There's the James. Look at how nice the cape looks, Rich. It's beautiful. Look up. Look. Get your head out of your chin, out of your chest, and look up and just.
How is that anything but inspirational?
That's all I want. I don't want a suicidal Superman. I'm so sick of the Justice League, the Snyder version of Superman. Like, I love Cavill. But Cavill was great. Good choice. Got bogged down by some terrible movies. Just waiting. The moment he didn't save his dad because his dad's like, don't do it because I'm xenophobic and they might autopsy you. Is the moment. It's just too much. It's too much for the character to bear. Okay, comments. Let's see. You forget origin stories are so hard to tell. Except we get a lot of good origin story movies. We shouldn't get as many. The Drew McIntyre WWE looks like Craven, yeah. No Paul Giamatti, Rhino, and Craven? No. Worse.
Ooh.
It's worse than you can ever imagine who Rhino is in the movie. Without the foil of Spider-Man, it's hard to show a character arches. Madam Web should have been written into all of them when you could have an arching universe. You're telling a story from a villain's point of view. With this old one who can only do so much Spider standards. Like that, they were just incredibly shitty. Yeah, they were. JW got whammed. Haha. No need for that. No.
That's
still wham proof so far. Don't gloat. Not even watching the movie. I'm in a Baja mood, but maybe by the end of the week I won't be grinchy. Fantastic. Me to Rich, it's the outside that fucks people like us, Rich. True, I agree. It is what it is. Whamicide. Laugh aloud. Barrymore did that shit to me at 7 a.m. Jerk. Yeah, Raven got whamicide too. Yeah. But no whamicide here. Let's talk about the best possible Christmas present a child could ever receive, and that's a dangerous monster under his tree.
Right before we started, I was working on a on this coming week's Saturday Night Live at 50 post, and which is the 12 sketches of Christmas. They're 12 best sketches in my personal opinion, which is right. And one of those sketches is Dick in the Box. And literally, I started it off by writing, fellas, looking to surprise that someone special in your life with a holiday gift that no one else can give them. And then you just started off your segue almost the exact same way.
Well, we've been around each other a lot these days.
Yeah.
The last year and a half. But like I again, it is a great gift. He look at how cute he is. He's adorable. Again, look at how cute he comes in a cool box that has clearly some sort of satanic ritual rites on it. And I think summer '84 is one of the great summers. And it's right after 82, 83. 83 was Return of the Jedi. 82 was E.T. everything. E.T., Star Trek 2, The Thing, you know what I mean? Tron, Blade Runner. And then summer 84, I know there's plenty of other things in 82, but summer 84 was like, let's have fun again. We got Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, we got Ghostbusters. As a matter of fact, Rich, this movie opens on the exact same day as Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
What a day. It would have been like Gremlin Busters? Like what would the catchy name have been in June of 1984? But production on this movie is
all it would have been called. It would have been called "Mom, drop me off at the theater and pick me up at 9:00 tonight." That's what it would have been called.
Yeah. So I mean, Ghostbusters and Gremlins are released the same weekend. Basically, Gremlins were conceived as a 1920 thing, right? Mechanical failures in the Royal Air Force prompted people to say, hey, there are monsters in my thing. Gremlins didn't enter the popular children's vernacular until Roald Dahl published a book called The Gremlins in 1943. And so, Walt Disney considered making a film of it. Bugs Bunny had battles a gremlin on an airplane and falling hair, right? And so Joe Dante comes into this and says, what if we could take a movie that's, and I was trying to come up with this when I was writing the thing for this show tonight. What if we could take a movie that's a Saturday morning Looney Tunes cartoon and is also the Saturday afternoon horror movie from the 50s you watch with your dad? And what if we just jam them together? And the jam doesn't always work. It's like a sandwich where you're out of meat. Sometimes it's like a sandwich where you're out of meat or whatever, and you kind of just like, I can put cheese on it. There is one slice of salami left. It's a perfect kind of smush sandwich where you're like, it's amazing. So Joe Dante apparently did read Roald Dahl's book. He loved the idea of the concept. So Chris Columbus comes up with a concept. You know what I mean? Spielberg basically bought it and said, you know, it wasn't going to get filmed. It was just like it was a Chris Columbus spec script that he sent out with the idea of like, hey, I can write about things that happen to me in my life, but I can also come up with really cool concepts. And Spielberg's like, that's great. We should do it. Because at that point, Spielberg, he could do anything. No yes.
Yeah.
In the mid 80s, if Spielberg said yes, that movie did well, even if the movie wasn't great. I'm looking at you, batteries not included. So, you know, originally, I don't know if you know this, but like Tim Burton was considered to direct after he did the Frankenweenie short, right? So he has all these things, but he chooses Joe Dante, who is, of course, at this point, hasn't made a movie since Twilight Zone in the movie in '83, right? And he's coming off The Howling and a very scary sequence in Twilight Zone the movie. And you know, the producer Mike Fennell has worked with Dante. They bring him on and they co-produce it through Amblin Entertainment. They then go to Chris Wallace to design the initial concepts of the creatures. Like a little, he talks about it. After reading the script, my first idea was take the tarsier, a little primate, and give it a cartoony proportions. I wanted big eyes to make it cute. Showed it to Mike Fennell and Joe Dante, and they asked for some tweaks. So I made the next one. This one was more like a puppy, big floppy ears, not based on any one dog in particular, just a cocker spaniel or something. Fortunately, they didn't go with it. There are only 2 Mogwai I sculpted before the first one, before the final one. So it only took him 3 tries to get this, to get this adorable. And then secondly, 2 tries to get this not adorable, terrifying in every conceivable way. And again, the greatest present a kid could ever get under the tree. Not only is it adorable, but at the end of the day, if I don't follow the rules, it can kill me. And I think that's what the fascination was in 1984, was this movie's incredible because it's essentially about a Christmas gift that could, if you're an asshole, if you're a bad kid, this is a gift that could kill you and your entire town and your parents. It could ruin your Christmas as well by taking down your tree and killing your mom.
And in one of the early drafts, the mom does get they kill the dog and the mom gets beheaded. And then I think Dante was like, maybe we can ratchet this back a hair.
Maybe we can pull it back, Joe. Just pull back. It's not the fucking Howling, my friend. And you know, like, again, you're talking about a much darker version of the final film. She dies, head thrown down the stairs when Billy arrives. Was what you're talking about, right? Yep. And they're like, that's a little bit darker than what we want. There are also scenes where the Gremlins ate Billy's dog, and a scene where the Gremlins attacked a McDonald's, eating customers instead of burgers. Sure, that would have gone over well. Also, instead of Stripe being a Mogwai who becomes
that's
a Gremlin,
an easy product placement call.
There was,
hey, President of McDonald's.
Hey, we would like to do a Happy Meal. We'd like to do a Happy Meal. Also, it's going to have a murdered McDonald's customer. There was originally no Mogwai named Stripe, so rather Gizmo is supposed to transform into Stripe the Gremlin. Spielberg overruled this plot element as he felt Gizmo was too cute and that audiences would want him to be present throughout the film. So every step of the way where it's super dark, Spielberg goes, Rich, just goes like this. He goes, no, I'm the arbiter of everything. You know, he pulls it back a notch where it's like, we're not going to have.
I was going to say, he doesn't quite veto everything.
No, but he
kind of trusted Joe Dante to keep the soliloquy about Christmas from Phoebe Cates that comes at the third in the third.
Yeah. That
he was
almost
like, I don't know about this, but I trust you, Joe Dante.
I trust you on this one. Also, every studio exec who saw a screening was like, "That's got to go. It's too ambiguous as whether it's supposed to be funny or sad." Dante refused to take the scene out, saying it represented the film as a whole, which had a combination of horrific and comedic elements. Spielberg hated the scene, but he viewed Gremlins as Dante's project and allowed him to leave it in. A parody of the scene is featured in Gremlins 2 in the new batch, so I think that's super cool. Also, I do think I need to tell this story. I've told the story countless times. First time I ever showed my little brother Robbie Gremlins, he was 7, and he loved the movie. Dude. He loved the movie, and as we're watching the movie, my wife walks in, and she's like, "Isn't this the scene where the girl talks about her dead father and no Santa Claus?" And I'm like, "Oh, it is." And I had to hit the fast forward button on the VCR or the DVD, whatever it was at the time. 7, yeah. So probably DVD, but it's easily the most like scary scene in the movie. Casting Phoebe Cates, of course, was cast as Kate. Although there were lots of concerns from Warner Brothers that she was too risque because of Fast Times at Ridgemont High from 1982. They also cast Zach Galligan, who was an unknown at the time, because in the readings during auditions, Galligan and Phoebe Cates. By the way, how could anybody not have chemistry with Phoebe Cates? I'm just throwing it out there. But Galligan and Phoebe Cates really matched up well in their auditions, and when they did, he kind of those are the two. And he fought for her. So
it's funny that they were so concerned about one actor's connection to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, yet there's another actor from that sequence that they were probably concerned about who's also in this movie. I'm talking about Judge Reinhold, of course.
Yes. You know what? I was thinking about this character today. We never find out. I mean, he's enough of a vile villain character that he deserves a death scene? Doesn't he?
Yeah, he deserves something. You know,
he's a bad person. He's like a younger version of Mrs. Deagle. We'll get there. Other people that auditioned for the part: Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Ralph Macchio, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Judd Nelson, all auditioned. The interesting thing there is Macchio didn't get this role, but then Macchio gets Daniel LaRusso, and he becomes the Karate Kid. So everything is meant as it's supposed to be in Hollywood. And then all the other actors that we're talking about there, almost all of them are part of the Breakfast Club and the Brat Pack. So interesting thing. Hanks, of course, Spielberg, I think Hanks might have been interesting in this role, but again, a little bit too young for him, I think, at the time.
And he would go on to work with Dante later.
Yes.
The absolutely delightful The Burbs.
Yeah. Criminally underrated, The Burbs.
Yes.
The other thing that this movie percolates with is older actors from other things and actors that are very kind of widely known, but not as known as they could or should have been. Glenn Turman plays the high school teacher. Dick Miller, who was a regular in Dante film, plays a World War II veteran who's constantly obsessed with Gremlins. Boyd Axton, who is fantastic in the movie as Mr. Peltzer, is great. And basically got the role because of his work in The Black Stallion. Again, amazing. Key Luke, of course, a renowned Asian actor who basically his career spanned half a century. He was around 80 at the time of filming, and the character is very elderly. So they had to make him look elderly. He was 80, but he looked great. Mr. Wing looked fantastic. Corey Feldman's also in the movie. He plays Pete, the tree kid. He also puts water on Gizmo and then doesn't give a fuck at all. Like, he doesn't care.
He out of anybody is the most responsible for what happens here, and yet he is
it's like neat. It's neat.
He doesn't give a shit.
Doesn't give a shit. And then, of course, the amazing Polly Holiday plays Mrs. Deagle, who so deserves to die. And you know,
she. Maybe it's because I've kind of had Wizard of Oz on the brain for the last couple of weeks. But my goodness, is she just channeling her inner Margaret Hamilton for this?
I'll get your little dog. Yeah. Oh, no, it's there. Oh, well, yeah. I think that's one of the other things about this movie, right, Rich? Like the reason this movie is a classic is not just because it's not just because we're
not just because we love this movie. But I think Joe Dante is really kind of really just drawing on all of the things he loves. This is a Looney Tunes movie. This is kind of a dark comedy. He's referencing Wizard of Oz. The marquee for the movie house. At the beginning, it says a dog's or a boy's life and Watch the Skies. Those were the working titles for E.T. and Close Encounters specifically. So, he's throwing in jokes in. He loves old Roger Corman films. So, of course, Dick Miller is going to show up. He loves Looney Tunes cartoons. So, of course, Chuck Jones has a small little 1-line, 2-line cameo in the movie. That's what
I mean. It's also it's a love affair
of Joe Dante's brain,
right? Really. And it's a love affair with old movies. There's the Time Machine, the George Powell Time Machine, Robbie the Robot, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's a Wonderful Life. What is it? Grand Prix with Gable, right?
Yes.
I
do want to point out, as a huge Forbidden Planet fan, the lines for Robbie the Robot at the Inventors Convention, those are all original lines lifted right out of the movie for this movie.
But he's talking on the phone. He's making a style.
It's not like somebody re-recorded them. That's the actual original voice actor from the movie.
Well, and if you pay really close attention, the fucking time machine disappears. Like, there are so many things going on in the background of this movie. There's a sequence after he leaves the Futterman in the morning, after he asks him if he wants a jump, Mrs. Deagle shows up at the bank, and then I noticed Dick Miller's was in the shot. And it's the first time I've ever noticed it. He's in the shot at the bank. And when Mrs. Deagle starts walking towards the door, the lady with her 2 kids stands there, right? And all you see is Dick Miller looking at it and just walking away. And I think, like, that's incredible. And I think, the love affair with movies, the love affair with comics, the love affair with cartoons, special effects.
This is something I saw too. Usually you'll see, like, in a movie, if somebody's a comic book person, it'll just be all like one brand of comics. It'll be all Marvel or all DC. This one had both Marvel and DC books laying around in Billy's room.
There were crypt books too. I think there were Tales of Horror books too.
Yeah,
like that's the other thing.
From DC was the one cover I definitely saw, and that's what
House
made me start
Mystery,
looking.
Right? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like one of those things where it's like it's a love affair with comics. It's a love affair with cartoons. It's a love affair with Saturday afternoon movies you watch with your dad, like Them or The Blob, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why it's lasted this long, right? We would also be remiss that they were going to do, like, to talk a little bit about the special effects, talk about the music a little bit, and then also talk about the special effect that is Howie Mandel. But first, I do want to talk about, if you're looking at the sets of this movie, old Warner Brother, all the sets are Universal City in California, Warner Brothers studio backlot. And then they needed fake snow, so they did whatever. They tried to use monkeys, but the monkeys flipped out about the masks. It wasn't on Warner Brothers lot. They shot the Town Square stuff on Universal's lot, because that's the same lot. But the Chinatown scenes are on Warner Brothers studio. back on.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they tried to put monkeys in gremlin outfits, but the monkeys freaked the fuck out wearing the gremlin heads, which I think is great. So instead, we get the cool movement puppets and marionettes, and then they work along real. So the actors got to work along real characters. All the little gremlins become real characters, especially the bar scene. Bar scene has way more things going on. They had mechanical, rubber. Gizmo was like there was at least 5 different Gizmo puppets, right? There's one for the camera, one where he would sit on a surface, like when when he takes him to the bathroom, puts the bandage on his head, which is adorable. And then they did so much little work to make sure, like, there was a gizmo made for him to be hung on the wall with the dartboard. And then they also had a list that the crew created with Wallace and Dante where they came up with horrible things to do to Gizmo. And so I just think, Dante did want Rob Bottin and John Dykstra, but they were working on this other 1985 movie called Legend. So they didn't work on Gremlins, they worked on Legend. And then I think, we have to talk about Howie Mandel, right? If you don't know, Howie Mandel is the voice of Gizmo. Voice actor Frank Welker is the voice of Stripe. So every time they're talking, bye, Billy, that stuff is essentially Bobby's world. Like, if you think about it real hard in your head, just go Bobby's world, and it is Gizmo's voice. And so, but the interesting thing here is that the thing you read about is that he was so good at the voice that he was the only one that could do the voice around the world. So when Gremlins got put into other countries and had other dubs, he had to learn the other languages for all of Gizmo's stuff. And I was like thinking about it, like, so Gizmo in French is still Howie Mandel. Gizmo in China, still Howie Mandel. Like, it's an amazing thing that Howie Mandel, he basically sat down and learned all the different ways for Gizmo to talk. You know what I mean? It's impressive. I just think it's one of the great voiceovers we'll ever have. Some comments. Let's see. Nothing really. We got rid of the bad ones, the evil ones. But let's move to box office. Box office is interesting, Rich. Gremlins goes to the box office on, let's see, it opens on, it had an $11 million budget. It was more expensive than Spielberg intended, but real cheap for its time. The trailer introduced the film. The trailer's great. I rewatched the original trailer. There are no gremlins in it. It's just Christmas stuff and the box, and you don't know what the fuck's in it. Right? And, he other things. He started concentrating on Gizmo and overlooked the gremlins and made the film look eerily similar to E.T., right? So it opens on June 8th, 1984, the same day as a little Ivan Reitman movie called Ghostbusters. For that weekend, Gremlins ranked second, 12.5 million in its first weekend, losing to Ghostbusters, 13.6 million. By the end of its American screenings on November 29th, 1984, Rich, it had grossed $148 million. It was the 4th highest grossing film of the year behind Beverly Hills Cop, Ghostbusters, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Fucking crazy. And this is where the numbers really get crazy. So, $11 million budget, Rich. Opening weekend is 12.5, so it makes back its budget opening weekend. It lasts anywhere from, depending on where you look, 10 weeks to 17 weeks on average in every theater it played at. Crazy. and it ends up grossing 14.9 times its production budget. That is numbers. Those are numbers you can't even write of. It does internationally. It also plays well. Not great, but it is kind of like Ghostbusters in that sense, where it's a particularly American thing. It only grosses 12 million international, so 151 domestic, 12 million internationally for 163. Do you want to know what its adjusted inflated box office amount is, Rich?
650 million.
No, it's 485 million, but that's still a lot of fucking money. And it would put it in the top 5 this year. Just so we're clear. And so it was an unprecedented success. It did incredible at the box office. It played for a long time. And it's one of the biggest hits of that year. And that year, talk about heavy hitters. Beverly Hills Cop, for the long time, the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. Up until Passion of the Christ and Deadpool, right? And Ghostbusters.
I always get the two movies confused. I always confuse Passion of the Christ and Deadpool. They're so damn similar.
It's really interesting when Christ tries to sell cigarettes at the beginning of the movie. It's weird. It's a little weird. It's strange. Let's talk about critics. Let's talk about how people viewed it then and now, right? So as an aggregate, we use Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't really mean a lot, but this movie's at 86% of critics like it, 78% for the popcorn meter. I thought that was low. Like 78 for a pretty classic movie is low, but then you start thinking about how the times have changed for this movie, how it got saddled with Temple of Doom and Gremlins are the two that caused the PG-13 rating, right? They're the two that this was a PG-rated movie and kids went to see it, and they watched a woman get launched out of her house, and
she
mom,
did.
She dead. She in the street. Also watched a mom get cut apart by her Christmas tree. Put a fucking gremlin in a blender and a microwave. And just watched a bunch of things bubble near the end. So it freaked people out. But it did get good reviews, right? Roger Ebert loved the movie, 3 out of 4 stars. Declaring it not only fun, but a sly series of send-ups, effectively parodying many elemental film storylines. Depictions of mysterious worlds, a shop in Chinatown, a tyrannical elderly woman, Mrs. Deagle. Ebert also believed the rule in which a Mogwai can't eat after midnight was inspired by fairy tales, and that the final scenes parody classic horror films, connected Kate's speech and her father to the great tradition of 1950s sick jokes. Siskel also gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars, describing it as wickedly funny and slightly sick. I think that's great. And a most original work. We're aware at every moment that someone's trying to entertain us. Playfulness abounds. And that's the gist, right? It's an interesting thing. Although one critic, Rich, really hated this book.
Oh, jeepers, who would that be?
Well, that would be Leonard Maltin, Rich. Leonard Maltin had a war of attrition with Gremlins. He disapproved the film and was constantly berating it on Entertainment Tonight for a good 6 months until it went away. He called the film icky, gross. He later wrote that despite being set in a picture postcard town and blending the feel of It's a Wonderful Life with The Blob, the film is negated by too vivid violence and mayhem, giving the film 2 out of 4 stars. The interesting thing here is Joe Dante later won him over, Rich, because Leonard Maltin would appear in Gremlins 2, repeating the criticism of the original film as an in-joke before being throttled by the creatures. He gave the second film a more positive rating, 3 out of 4, saying it was much more pleasant than the first film. I think the biggest thing that you also come across with the older versions of like the older reviews of the movie, it is very violent. It does have very evil characters in it. Kate's speech is rough. Uh, the Gremlins get a little drunk, a lot drunk actually. The one has like is on the beer tap and his belly gets big. I mean, it's not anything we didn't see in a Bugs Bunny cartoon or Elmer Fudd or all those people, but there was a lot of like a lot of the idea that this is a violent movie that led to the moral decay of children in the 80s, right? They you can look at different scenes in the movie. Mr. Wing getting upset that that Gizmo now watches television, um, things like that, where it's just a weird like, people have written books about why Gremlins ruined everything. Um, you know, I don't know. I think I still love the movie, so I can't. This is a nostalgia movie for me. This is a movie I grew up on. I was 10 when it came out. I find a lot of enjoyment in it. I find a lot of enjoyment in noticing the details, the very important details. Like my dad showed me Invasion of the Body Snatchers when I was a kid. So the idea that Kevin McCarthy is like, they're coming to get us, is in the movie is important. The idea, I think the movie that it also resembles a great deal, if you really pay attention, is The Blob, right? He goes to the police and he says, there are little monsters attacking the town. And the guy's like, what? You're crazy, kid. Go home and open your presents. And, and then the future, Jonathan Banks is also the cop, right? So he had a great year in '84. He was the bad guy in Beverly Hills Cop. He goes on to Breaking Bad, right? And he's there and he's like, he's drunk off his ass, and they watch a Santa get mutilated in front of them. But I think it's okay. Like, I think Gizmo's cute. I think he's a great character. I love that they reference Grand Prix when he's driving the Barbie dream car. There are so many cool sequences. All the Gremlins dancing and singing to the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? I just think it's one of those movies that is critic proof, isn't it? Like,
it's a lot of fun. If I were looking at it, from a strictly critical standpoint, I think some of the editing's a little choppy. They suddenly get to play. There's things where they're like, and there's
choppy editing in the end. I noticed it today. And again, as you become a critic, you kind of notice weird things. He hands him the smokeless cigarette ashtray, and then Mr. Wing opens the door and he just has the box. So he hasn't put the ashtray away. Right? It's right when Gizmo's leaving. Yeah, it's choppy. It's messy. It's got a very cartoon nature to it. It's kind of like if we, there's a sequence in the middle of the movie that I noticed today again where if you're really they paid such close attention to the shit in the background. So Stripe is in Montgomery Ward, flipping blades and doing all kinds of stuff. But he's hiding, and when he's hiding, he comes out of E.T. and E.T. doll, dead middle. He pushes it over. He pushes his arms out, and who is he pushing out? Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny.
Oh yeah,
right. It's like it's all super detailed. The visual effects look pretty good. Like
I love Joe Dante, but he's not known for his subtlety.
Yeah, he's not. No, and that's the thing. I think the other thing that needs to be said is that has to be said. Gremlins 2, the new batch, is not nearly as bad as we think it is. I think Gremlins 2. I think Gremlins. Oh, wait, you're on my team on this one? Gremlins 2, I think is
better than this movie.
Yeah, so because they had more to do. They had a lot more fun with it. This movie though it's a good movie. God.
I was gonna say one other very obvious to me at least influence. When Gizmo disposes of Spike by breaking throwing down the shutter and letting the light come in. That's the ending of every Hammer Dracula film featuring Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. And of course,
We get
Christopher Lee goes on to be in Gremlins too.
He's the one. Yes. I was about to write Bobby's World, and you mentioned it as I type. It's not something that is done like that anymore, but it's the voice. Happy holidays. Happy holidays, you too, Jasper. You too, Jasper. Get that theme music in your head. I'm not falling for the banana in my tailpipe. First PG-13 movie, Red Dawn. Yes.
First PG-13 movie released was Red Dawn, but the first movie to go through the film classification board and get that PG-13 was actually Pink Flamingos. But Pink Flamingos had its release pushed back, and that's why Red Dawn was the first one released, even though it was the second one.
Flamingos got PG-13?
I'm sorry, the Flamingo Kid. I do that all the time.
I was like, Pink Flamingos got PG-13?
Yeah, I know. That was
the 80s were a much different time. Gremlins had Robbie the Robot and Time Machine in the background. Yes, we were discussing that. We're touched on that. Plus, all the movie people that are in the movie are all the older actors have been in other things, so it's super cool. I think the movie holds up. I think the special effects hold up. I think there's one or two scenes that look choppy, but for the most part, in 4K they hold up remarkably well. He is he's so great. And he gets more to do in Gremlins 2, the new batch, but he's so great as a character. Like when he's playing his little trumpet and fucking Stripe spits at him like a fucking dick. I love Gizmo, and I think Gizmo is one of the I feel Gizmo is like an incredible creation where you just go, he becomes like a classification of things that you love from the 80s, right? He's a trivia question that you just go, what's his name? He's, what is he? Is a Mogwai. And I do think Stripe is pretty cool too. I think, I was thinking about as you're watching these movies over and over again, and for the first time on the show, I was trying to think of stuff that Billy could have done. I was trying to think of stuff like, don't be mean to the creatures. I also, what else kind of jumps in the critical response then and now? Some of the questions that normies might have, what time zone does it matter what time zone they're in? You know what I mean? No, they bit the fucking wire so they could fool him. Let it go. It's just a fun romp of a movie. It's not the best movie from Summer of '84, but it's part of what makes the Summer of '84 magnetic to people our generation, right? That summer of '84, that first month of '84 was Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm.
You could just get lost in it. It was so good.
I dare say, outside of those of us who were there, I don't know if, and it did great at the box office and everything, but I don't know if Gremlins has quite the resonance. Excuse me.
That Ghostbusters or indie had.
Or
Beverly Hills Cop.
Successive generations.
Right. It's a movie that you may love, that you might show, but the movie, my nephews, the way I look at it, right? My nephews have seen it. They don't love it as much as they love Ghostbusters, right? They don't love it that much, right? They like it, but they came upstairs today while I was rewatching. They're like, I'm good.
Is it a case where they couldn't?
It could be
connect?
That they're a little bit scared. It could be that they're a little bit scared, and they don't watch Looney Tunes cartoons anymore. So, part of the enthrall of Gremlins to me is that it's a live action cartoon. That sequence in the bar, that sequence at the theater, is essentially a live action Looney Tunes cartoon, right? And if you haven't seen Bugs Bunny, or if you haven't seen, the Looney Bugs Bunny movie, right? You know what I mean? If you haven't seen those, it's real hard to grasp what they're going for. And they like Gizmo, but they the Gremlins kind of scare them. You know what I mean? Like, so it we were not a hard group to deal with in the 80s where we watched a ton of shit and nobody was coddling us. I was talking about it the other day. We were talking about the Neverending Story. My nephew reacted as everybody else did in when Neverending Story came out in '84. When Atreyu loses Athrax, right? Flipped out. My wife's like, "This is terrible. What happened to the horse? Horse dies until the end. That's how it works." That's upsetting. Yes, that's that's beauty of the '80s. The '80s were like, you can't handle it. Suck it up, Buttercup. Moving on. And Gremlins is like that. I think was there a Gremlins cartoon recently? Yes, we're gonna. Thank you. That is a perfect segue into legacy and franchise viability. Yes, there was a Gremlins cartoon recently, Tales of the Mogwai, which went into where they came from and all the different things. It was a good cartoon show, but it's on Max. And I don't know if you know this, but David Zaslav sucks, and he doesn't understand it's his proprietary information that's important. And so it got a lackluster kind of like it got dropped with no kind of like ties to Gremlins, no ties to Gremlins 2. Just kind of got dropped on the network, and we don't know if we're getting any more.
Didn't we get a second season earlier this year though?
Are we getting a second season? Tales of the Mogwai? Hold on. I
think we got something earlier this year with like a different The Wild. I don't know. I thought we got a second season of.
It's called Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Animated adventure comedy television series serving as the prequel to the eponymous 1984 film and its 1990 sequel. Series is set in 1920 Shanghai, China. Number of seasons 2. Number of episodes 15. So it does have 15 episodes. When did it premiere? It did premiere in 2024. So there was one in 2023 and then 2024. But it was called season 2 was called The Wild Batch. It only had 5 episodes.
Okay.
It premiered in October. Season 1 was 10 episodes. And season 1 was 10 episodes and premiered May through June. And I can't remember what it premiered up against, but I know it had rough going, right? Series was also set to air on Cartoon Network, but they moved it to Adult Swim. So it got moved around, and then they went from 10 episodes to 5 episodes. So it does say, hold on, let me read really quick because we're talking about it anyway. First half of the second season debuted on October 3rd, 2024. So in the last 2 months, it premiered.
Okay, so there's a second half of the second season.
There's half of a second season. We don't know if we're getting the other half.
I would hope they would. I mean, why make it if you're...
Well, I mean, do you just say that with David Zaslav?
That's true.
There you go.
He's a dick.
I'm sorry. Is it a creative thing that people might like, or is it a tax write-off? Who knew? But yeah, let's see. These blockbuster bombs don't go off unless you hit them just right. Raven in 2022, 2023. Me and Wen fighting. Interesting fights going on in this game. But I think the legacy, I must say this. I think Gremlins 2, The New Batch, deserves a revisit, right? I think that's one of the movies that deserves a revisit. It didn't do as well as the first one.
Its 35th anniversary this next year, 1990 to 2025. So,
well, that's and like I said though, when you're dealing with this type of IP, right? When you're dealing with Gremlins grosses 163 million, And because Gremlins 2 doesn't do a lot, right? Gremlins 2, oof, opens, let's see, it opened June 15th, 1990. So you're right, 35th anniversary coming up. It grossed $41 million. And it opened in 1990. So but it deserves a revisit. Let's just say that. And I think one of the things that I think there could be, like, if there was, I don't know, Rich, if there was somebody in charge of Warner Brothers that was mildly intelligent, that that understood how important IP is, and understood that he's not making fucking widgets or shows about people buying houses and reselling them, maybe we would get some sort of franchise viability. I think the legacy is it's part of the 80s, part of the 80s, where we were given things that maybe we weren't ready for, and they kind of made us into the generation we are now.
True.
You know what I mean?
I just checked because it was bothering me. Gremlins 2 opened the same weekend as Dick Tracy.
Well, that's why it didn't do well.
Yeah.
That's part of the. I mean, Gremlins 2 opened the same weekend. Somebody was giving away a T-shirt as a ticket. Sorry, that's a deep 90s cut.
It's also indicative too of like why did Warner's keep insisting on releasing, both of these films the same weekend as
other major films,
similar in terms of thematics. Here's a horror comedy we're going to release at the same time as our kind of science fiction horror comedy with Aaliyah. So it's like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you wait a couple of weeks and get the fuck out of the way of Ghostbusters? Even if you didn't know that it was going to be what Ghostbusters became, just looking at it on paper 3 months in advance, going, you know what?
Yeah, but that I would
we're going to hate each other. We're splitting the audience.
I would say Dick Tracy is a much bigger sell for Gremlins 2 than Ghostbusters or Gremlins. Spielberg produced movie. Ghostbusters had, and the audience of our show knows, Ghostbusters had the stench of death on it when it came about. Oh, look at this, in a car. Can barely steer.
I'm doing the best I can, okay?
You're doing the best you can.
That.
I'm sorry.
I would just say it's like defending a life. I'm doing the best I can. Tell you what, let's not do this while you're driving. Get home. Are you almost home?
I'm gonna be home in like 2 minutes. I've got like 4 blocks.
Okay, then get the fuck off. Get off. You're out. We'll see you in a little bit.
Wow. Bye.
I don't want people being dangerous, especially her.
I understand. I'm going to hear about it tomorrow, but I understand.
That's fine. It wasn't being rude. I was just focused on the drive. So Lost right now. I thought the 9 p.m. started after the new year. Yes, it was going to, but then we threw it into effect tonight to get everybody ready.
This guy pulled an audible.
I pulled an audible. It did cost us Natasha for the night, but she's coming soon. We had Zach on the network. Yeah, I know. I'm well aware. Zach's a nice kid. He started in Waxwork, which is another great 80s movie. But yeah, I think the legacy of this movie is that it prepared a generation of people to not be so worried about what they were watching. Because we didn't know. Like, we didn't know that somebody was going to rip their heart out in Indiana Jones. We didn't know somebody was going to get put in a microwave when we went to see this.
Joe, at some point, I'd almost like to see if we could get Zach back, because I would love to talk to him about Nothing Lasts Forever. His second film. He did this. This was directed by Schiller, the guy who did the Schiller's Reels for Tom Schiller for Saturday Night Live. It's a barely seen movie. Bill Murray's in it. It's really interesting and weird and wonderful. and experimental. Turner Classics ran it once or twice a couple of years back. And if you're interested, track it down and give it a watch. I mean, I wrote about it years back.
Nothing Lasts Forever?
Yeah.
I'm writing it down as we speak.
It's a very magical singular vision of a film.
You know what? The other thing is, you know what's interesting about this? Think about the 4 movies we were talking about from 1984 that were big hits, right? Beverly Hills Cop, Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones, and this. And while we have a cartoon show, and we're happy with whatever we get, the other 3 movies have had franchise sequels, legacy sequels, in the last year and a half to 2 years. Right? So, Gremlins, if somebody was in charge of the fucking product that understood what it meant to people and how it meant. Although I think you're right, though. The thing about the legacy of this particular movie is that I don't know that it's as ingrained as Ghostbusters, Indy, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah. And also, even just this year, another Warner Brothers film did very well as a legacy sequel, and that's Beetlejuice. And
yeah,
so I think that should have had some heads going, oh, wait a minute.
Well, I mean, Rich, we just had a thing. I just talked about it on Loud and Nerdy last week. We just had fucking studio heads realizing that Coraline and Interstellar were doing well in their revivals. And they realized that people want to see movies on the big screen.
Craziness.
These fucking people, Rich. These fucking people. That's all I got to say to you is I look at these people and I just go, like, there was an article in Variety that basically said a bunch of studio execs are wondering about the movies they have in their fucking lockers. And oh my God, might they do well on the big screen too? Fucking idiots. These people are idiots.
Yep.
It's a thing. I think Gremlins is a lot of fun. I don't know that it's as great as Ghostbusters or Beverly Hills Cop or whatever, but I do know that when I watched it today, I was like Gizmo. I like that he drives the fucking car around. I like that he goes beep beep. I like that at the end of the movie, the first time I ever noticed it today was when Barney's right by the door. He says bye bye woof woof. Like little things you notice. And today's little thing was as Barney's standing by the door and Mr. Wing is taking him out, he says bye bye woof woof.
Aww.
Yeah, I mean look at him, he's so adorable. I love him so much. He's so cute. He's so adorable. Look at those eyes. And he's a fully functional character. Like, how you doing tonight, Giz? And he's sitting there, he's reading the comics. He's adorable. And then when Feldman is playing with him, he treats him like he's an idiot. I didn't like that. He's like, blink your eyes. Blink your eyes. I was like, So we're waiting on Natasha, but I think the interesting thing here is I'm surprised we haven't had a legacy sequel for Gremlins yet.
I mean, there was talk for a Gremlins 3, several years back. Around the same time, there were, on and off again news about, a Beetlejuice 2 being developed. And I mean,
that would be amazing if they did Beetlejuice and Gremlins go to Hawaii. No.
I mean, there's, both of them were being developed at Warner's. I think one or two of the writers had kind of worked on both projects, and it's ridiculous to me that so far we haven't heard anything from Warner's going, hey, why not we do this? Because I think if you're going to strike at any time, now is the time when the iron is hot.
Well, yeah, I would say yes, except for the fact that they found I think it's one of those things where it's like they didn't even get it right with the cartoon show. The medium where the Gremlins should be like, there's no constraints on them, right?
Mhm.
And then they don't launch the show properly, and then they set the second thing in two halves. And speaking of two halves, our better half, Natasha Bogutzki. Look, a couple things. There were people worried about you. I want you to read some of these. Please pay attention to the road. Not safe for you or others. I know from experience. She lost her fiance recently in a car accident. People were worried about you. We discussed, I believe, a little movie titles escaped me in the movie JW. You're looking great. I dig the hat. Rich is looking dapper and amazing too. I'm just wearing a Superman shirt for the most anticipated movie of 2025 and a cool child hat. Didn't they do an animation recently? Yeah, they tried to, but it didn't work. Natasha, you get 3 minutes on why you hate Gremlins. Go.
Furbies.
Furbies. We lost her. As if the universe didn't want her to actually say her next sentence.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as if the universe didn't want you to say something bad about Gizmo and the Gremlins. I just want to point out that the universe is telling you something. Don't call Gizmo a fucking Furby.
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Okay.
How dare you, child?
So, okay. I have to explain why I have issues with Furbies. My niece
This has nothing to do with Gremlins.
Actually, it does. It has everything to do with Gremlins.
Let her ramble.
No, it's not a ramble. It's a verifiable fact. And I verified it this afternoon in a Variety article from December 22nd, 1998, where Hasbro actually had to pay Warner Brothers a 7-figure sum for ripping Gremlins. And then also had to rebrand their entire look. So you're welcome. I did my research. But I am terrified of Furbies. I actually am. I'm terrified of those things. And
hold on, let me get you one more Christmas gift here.
No, my cousin had one when I was a kid, and the damn thing.
Thank God I got you a Tamagotchi.
I've never.
Wait a second. You're comparing the Furbies to this? Look how cute he is. He's adorable.
He still looks like a fucking Furby to me,
No,
and it terrifies the fuck out of me. It's equally.
He's a good Mogwai.
A Mogwai.
I'm going to play the role of I'm going to play the role of Natasha here from last week with David Huddleston, and he's my Santa.
Also, I'm not gonna lie, I have not watched this movie in years, and I tried to get through it as fast as I could. I did not finish it. No, I've had a lot going on. I really tried for you. I did. I've gotten 4 hours of sleep today, and every spare moment I have had today, I've been watching Gremlins just for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it such
terrified of Furbies.
But they're Gizmo's.
He looks like a Furby to me. To be honest, they're that close that it actually kind of freaks
me. So you've been working all day. You haven't seen great things like this. Hold
on. Rich put that in the group chat. Not that I care. I'm not a Superman fan. I never have been. I'm going to see it for one reason and one reason only: Rachel Brosnahan.
Okay.
But in truth, Lois Lane to me is boring as fuck. So I'm okay with. I'll still see the movie.
Is there anything else you want to?
Comes out, but
is there anything else you want to ruin when I'm wearing a Christmas hat, Natasha?
I like that Christmas hat, red and green, very nice, and I love holly, so very nice.
Okay, so you don't like the movie because you feel they look like Furbies, and you don't like Furbies.
That's just a personal thing. But to be honest, from what I saw, it actually holds up. I liked what I saw. It was a little annoying how much it was like an 80s Amblin version of It's a Wonderful Life meets The Wizard of Oz.
These are all good points, by the way. Go ahead, keep on going. These are all yes.
I mean, it was good and it was also annoying at the exact same time. Just how
we were talking about the idea. I was telling Rich my idea. It's the perfect fusion of Saturday morning cartoons with Looney Tunes, with Saturday afternoon movies that you watch with your dad, like The Blob or like horror films from the 50s.
Well, I can't relate because I didn't watch Looney Tunes as a kid, and the movies that I watched with my dad on a Saturday afternoon were like Hamburger Hill, Patton, Apocalypse Now, Platoon. Like that was.
It's dark. Those are dark Saturdays. Much darker than me watching them killing giant ants.
We didn't watch movies. My dad and I didn't watch movies together unless it was a war movie. So I sat through a lot of war movies as a kid. Probably why I'm not a big fan of them now.
Pretty tree, Nat, and I totally get her point.
Thank you very much.
I fucking hate furries, but Gizmo is not a furry. I think she meant I fucking hate Furbies, but Gizmo.
No, but if Gizmo didn't exist, then Furbies wouldn't exist.
Did Natasha's dad die in a chimney on Christmas? Is this why she hates the flick? Did he?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry. Legit question from the fans. Okay. But so it does hold up, but it's okay, right?
Yes, it does hold up, and from what I saw, it's actually a lot of fun. I think the last time I watched it, I showed it to my stepsons, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago.
Did you show them the scene with Santa, with the idea that Phoebe Cates, tells the story? I was telling the story earlier that I did my 7-year-old brother and did that. And you okay?
No, my computer's gonna die on me if I don't plug it in. This is not my night. Now I'll try not to rip this out of the wall this time.
Adventure. She's an adventure. Oh my god, the computer just fell in this fucking.
There. This is the new angle. Sorry, guys.
God love you.
Not professional, but I have.
God love you. Well, we're just happier. Let's get away. Let's finish up.
Finish up. I just got here.
Well, no. What I was saying is let's finish up with Gremlins and let's talk about the end of the year.
Oh,
we did some talk. We want to finish up strong with 2024, and we each came up with 3 movies for 2024, and we're going to talk about them now, just as a happy thing to end the year on a high note, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with Natasha because she's just getting used to her new angle, and so these are the 3 movies Natasha picked. Natasha's 3 for 2024 that made the year worthy. Yes. The Substance, Saturday Night, and Challengers. She gave me a list of honorable mentions, but we said 3. So we're going with 3.
I was having a hard time picking.
I know you were. I know. I was shocked that Gladiator 2 wasn't at the top of the list. But it was part of your honorable mentions, so that's why I mentioned it. If you don't get it, it doesn't get written.
And the Les Trois Musketeers, part 2.
Yes, the 3 Musketeers. Okay. Let's talk about your movies. You picked The Substance, Saturday Night, and Challengers.
Yeah, I chose these particular 3 films. For me, they were huge standouts. The Substance, particularly, really, I think I gave that my first 5-star of the year, 5 out of 5. Yeah, I thought it was risky. I thought it had a lot to say. It was stylistic. If you love body horror, if you love Kubrick, this is a movie that's going to reach to you, but has a bit more substance than a Kubrick movie. Yeah. That's was kind of what I was going for there, Rich.
You don't do puns often, so.
I know.
There's a reason she doesn't do puns often.
It's been a night. I've been talking about beheading and all kinds of shit today, and I've been laughing about it. Saturday Night, loved it. I've watched it half a dozen times at this point. It's fast paced. It's 90 minutes. It's the 90 minutes leading up to the first episode of Saturday Night Live. As a whole, yes, Rich, I know it's not completely historically accurate. I don't give a fuck. It's still a really solid story.
Look, I don't think that its historical inaccuracies is a knock against the movie, because I think ultimately what the movie is trying to do is capture what the vibe is backstage, specifically
it's
that
manic.
night.
It's manic.
And that, I think, it succeeds marvelously.
Oh my God.
If I'm looking for historical accuracy in a kind of backstage at a TV thing, I would say September 5 was would be the movie I would recommend. In fact, I think both of these movies probably work really well as a double feature.
That's a solid one. On Saturday night, I think I loved the cinematography. I love the editing. I love movies that make you feel the energy, not an aesthetic so much as energy. Like Run Lola Run for me is one of my favorites because from the get-go, your heart's going. You are with her the entire time, and that's how Saturday night made me feel. Also, to piggyback off that, Challengers has that same vibe, but with more dramatic chops. I remember I finished watching it back in March, and I immediately messaged Rich, and I was like, Zendaya needs to be in the conversation for Best Actress in this. She is a kingmaker. She is playing Lady Macbeth here. She is, and there's just so much subtext of the actors' performances. I love the non-linear storytelling to it. The last few minutes of the film. My husband wasn't particularly a big fan of the POV shots at the match. I love it. I love the chaoticness of the match point section, and the whole idea that their relationship is the game. That's a thing. Life is a game.
Was Darren not liking that from a standpoint of
like a sports standpoint?
I think it was more because it was almost
motion
kind of
sickness?
shaky. It was the shakiness, maybe a little motion sickness going on there.
Okay. I can see that because sometimes that happens with me. This particular instance wasn't one of those times, but
it only
I can
lasts for like
actually
3
empathize.
seconds. So that's why I was just like, nah, I'm okay with it. But I was absolutely blown away by Challengers, by the acting chops of I wouldn't call them up and comers. I mean, there are up and comers in terms of the overall scheme of things. I've been following Josh O'Connor for years, literally fucking years. Ever since I saw him in an episode of Doctor Who in 2013 or 2014. So I've watched him come up in the world. And I think that it was just a powerhouse performance on all 3 sides. Also, really good score from Trent Reznor. So solid.
Those are 3 pretty great movies. I think, they're going to be near. They're going to be near the top of most 10. Like when the list that I think is interesting they come out with now is like the 10 that are the 10 movies of the year. There's no order to them, whatever. That's what I'm trying to do with these tonight. So, Rich, your 3. Also, if you like these kind of talks, please subscribe to the Indie Escape Network. I forgot the fucking banner tonight. Perfect. Rich's 3 for 2023. Substance. So we got 2 of those. Wicked and Better Man. So why'd you love the Substance, Rich?
It definitely had something to say. It definitely got out there and said it in the most gonzo way possible. And I love this movie for it. A much more sedate examination of the ideas in the Substance would probably be found in The Last Showgirl with Pam Anderson, which also sports some great performances from Dave Bautista and Jamie Lee Curtis. So,
and I think that's coming out this weekend.
Yeah, I would recommend both. I saw it at the Philadelphia Film Festival back in October and just was struck by how wonderful that is. It's coming out this weekend, so if it's shown at a theater near you, check it out. Substance is available on streaming right now, I believe.
Yeah, we had some people. A couple comments, quick. Substance was amazing. Raven's also pimping a Viking reality show, looking for contestants. Joe says, "Scroll, please and thank you." There we go. Skull, Joey, and the Vikings get me a hold on, like this, and then Nat Ahuvian. Yay. Okay.
Oh, good God, yes.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So the
If we weren't,
substance.
we never would have been friends, and we never would have met.
That's how we met. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. And then you brought her on the show, and now she drives me crazy.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm sharing the crazy around. What can I say?
So, but
I
the
have
substance
plenty to go around,
asks
trust
difficult
me.
questions of our
Mhm.
women actresses, and I think it's it's in the talk for top 10 of the year, obviously. You
Yes.
picked Wicked, Rich. Why'd you pick Wicked?
Wicked moves me. I think it's dealing with some substance adjacent women's issues in terms of how looks are commodified. Elphaba is smart. She has gifts, but she's stigmatized for her looks. And I think, so that feels like that's kind of like the substance adjacent in terms of that kind of a thematical thing. I saw the original production on Broadway back right after it opened in whatever that was, 2003, 2004.
2004, and you were spoiled.
Name dropper.
Look, I'm not
the
name
original.
like say I also saw a play with Mark Hamill and met him that same
knew
weekend.
you were gonna fucking go there with that one.
The goddamn name dropper. Name dropper.
Well,
Go ahead.
But and I really enjoyed the production. Here it's expanded. I think we get to, because it's we're not that distance from our middle price seats to the stage, but the movie has the ability to bring us right into these characters' lives, with close-ups and medium shots and all the great, wonderful cinematic vocabulary that we have at our disposal to do these things. I think it makes the personal story of Elphaba being an outcast and finally, rising to her moment to say, no, I'm going to stand for what I believe is right. And as it culminates in the song Defying Gravity, it becomes very emotional, and I was moved. I think a lot of people, and I was not expecting to be moved. I'll sit down, like I said, last night I sat down and watched Superman. And like I said, there's 3 moments in there that always get me, get the waterworks going a little bit. Here, I was not expecting it. And suddenly it's like in the last 2 minutes, I'm just like, I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. This is amazing filmmaking. God, I hope they can continue, on this kind of plateau, this height, or go even higher with the second part.
Maybe talking about it a little bit more. So
it's amazing.
Better Man. You've been talking about this movie.
This is another
the movie with the monkey. Is what everybody else is going to know it as. The movie with the monkey.
Robbie Williams, British pop singer, who says, I feel like I am a performing monkey. So in this movie about my life, you're going to see me as a monkey for the entire movie. And honestly, I think the conceit kind of works. The it's from the director of The Last Showman. So, all the musical
Greatest
numbers
Showman.
or Greatest Showman, excuse me. I'm still on Last Show Girl.
I figured that.
But so all the musical numbers are staged, very creatively, a lot of energy. And I think it's just one of the better music biopics that we have coming out this season, which kind of tells you what I also think about A Certain Unknown, A Complete Unknown, which I was sadly not as impressed with. There's a good performance from Chalamet, but
I've been hearing not great things on.
I think Chalamet has a good performance. Ed Norton has a good performance in A Complete Unknown, but overall the movie, I don't have my. I've been working on my review of it for a little while, and it's not a Rolling Stone of a movie. It's more like a stone that skims across the surface of a pond, never breaking the surface of what it's trying to do.
Ouch.
Yeah. I mean,
you, Robert Frost.
I was like, oh, cool. They recreated how,
Cisco Frost.
How, McDougal Street in Greenwich Village looked back in the 60s. That's cool. But ultimately, though, I don't think it kind of really digs into its subject the way Shoot, I'm trying to think of that Dylan biopic from 2007.
I'm not there.
I'm not there.
I'm not there. Yeah, I think I'm not there is a far better examination of its subject than this movie.
I had it first, Natasha.
I was trying to
nice,
let
girl.
him
I
finish
know.
his sentence first.
I know. I was just on it first.
But yeah, Better Man I think is a lot of fun. It's kind of and it also has a heartfelt moment at the end. You know, and again, this might be because, you know, my own dad is he's in his latter years. He turned 89 last weekend. And you know, so things about you know, dads and stuff's kind of hit me a little harder now. And so yeah, there's that. But
I can't
it
watch
opens
Big Fish
release
anymore.
on Christmas and goes wider in January, but you know, definitely it's in my top 10.
Which
and
one
I'm
did
glad-
you say you? Sorry, which
I'm
one
sorry?
did you say you can't watch anymore, JW?
I can't watch Big Fish anymore.
I've actually never seen it, and after
I
this,
can't
I'm
watch,
not
I
quite
can't watch
certain.
after my dad passed away. I can't watch Big Fish.
The
Ooh.
one that I can't watch ever since my dad passed was What a Girl Wants, because of
okay.
the father-daughter dance at the end that I
Okay.
never got. So
Aw.
yeah.
Oh.
I love
Okay,
that
well,
one.
let's try to keep things chipper and moving on Christmas.
It's
Yeah.
Christmas.
Woo! Okay, so you got. Here's the thing. I was thinking about my movies for this year, right? The movies that I came out of, and I just kind of like I was giddy, right? So they're not as fine tuned as you two, but here's what we're gonna go with. I picked Alien Romulus.
Big fucking shocker.
I am moderately obsessed with Alien Romulus right now.
Moderately?
Mildly. Let me explain why. And it's part. So a couple things. I think when you can reinvent a franchise that has been drugged down for the last 10, 15 years with sequels that are mediocre to decent sequels that give you what you need, but not necessarily any of the spark you get from the first two movies. I think the interesting thing for me coming out of Romulus was that I see a vision where the franchise can go, and so that's an exciting thing for me. I love the two characters. I love Andy a lot. I love Kaylee Spenny playing her role. I like some of the things, like Rich. Remember the night we talked about Alien Romulus? The idea that nobody ever did a 0G acid, thing where you're avoiding the acid splashes. Nobody had ever done it. You know what I mean? And I just think that the movie's very creative. It is set in a particular spot in the franchise order, and now you start seeing things where, like, yeah, Ripley's shuttle is in the dock, and all kinds of stuff. So it tells me that this filmmaker Fede Alvarez is going places with the franchise. It is a place I want to go to. I love the Alien franchise. I have since I was a kid. Since I saw Alien in 70mm at 5 years old and was completely terrified and been fascinated with the franchise. I picked Wicked because I think Wicked was the most monumental movie to see with a crowd this year. There was such energy and a vibe and sneezing. And
Sorry.
Bless you.
God bless you. I was just joking.
You need to go get a tissue or something. Or?
Yeah, go get a tissue.
I'm fine.
She's like,
And
fine. I'm gonna blow snot in my wine. Everything's great.
the one's over here. I sneezed that way.
That way. Well, anyway.
Protect the blues.
But Wicked. I think I what Rich was saying, the cinematography, it expands on it, and I'm gonna tell everybody right now, two movies when I was a kid that I was in love with that I watched every year. I watched The Wizard of Oz every year. I would go home. My dad would get the TV guide when The Wizard of Oz was coming. And that Sunday night, I would go home early and watch The Wizard of Oz. Sometimes my dad would go with me, but sometimes it would just be me and my mom. So it's like I've been obsessed with The Wizard of Oz, and Star Wars were the two when I was a kid, right? So Wicked expanding on that universe with these two talented actresses that are singing their guts out, and everything's kind of getting built around it. And my thing about the movie is, part of it is after you do see the musical on Broadway, is when you see it, you realize they haven't even given up half the stuff. Like, half the reveals that are in the musical have not been used yet. And when they happen, they have enough material in the chamber for Wicked 2 to be able to just have another huge mega hit, and also just have people clamoring the walls.
It's been a long time since I read the books, and I've been actually, since I saw it, and I think it's absolutely a stunning film. I've been thinking about going back and rereading it just because I'm curious to see how much they pulled from the book to throw.
Yeah, the Gregory Maguire book is fantastic. It's a great.
Yeah.
It was right around the time when they started doing the Fractured Fairy Tales, and they started releasing books, Fractured Christmas stuff. And his book was the first book that was like the bestseller that reinvented the wheel. And I just think it's one of those movies that it needs to be experienced with a big crowd. I might go see it with the sing along. I don't know. I might feel weird. It's like going to see some other movie where like you're out of place. But the other movie I'm going to pick is, and we've forgotten about it because it came out so far back, but it gave us the best popcorn bucket of the year. And it's also, a culmination of a great filmmaker paired with great source material, coupled with great actors and a broken popcorn bucket now. And just Dune 2, I think we're forgetting how good it was, and how, as we progress to the end of the year, so many movies are hitting the end of the year. Dune 2 has kind of gotten forgotten. So I just wanted, for me, when we went to see it and everybody was like, it's epic, it's amazing, it's better than the first one. If anybody thought that was possible, I didn't. I thought maybe we were going to get a little bit of a letdown, but it lives up to the hype. And I just think, perfect source material, extraordinarily difficult source material, coupled with a great filmmaker, coupled with amazing artists and amazing actors, and it's just epic and special. And I want to see the end. I want to see where we're going. I want to see what, if we get Doom Messiah. I want it all. So those were the movies that made me giddy this year. Alien Romulus is, I've watched Alien Romulus almost 6 times since it premiered on Hulu. So I'm in love.
I was thinking about adding Dune 2 to my list as well, but I figured it's loud and nerdy. One of you two nerds was actually going to put it on there. So, I was like, no, I'm going to do the ones that actually really spoke to me.
Well, and like I said, I picked the ones that spoke to me. Like, growing up in The Wizard of Oz, when it was on CBS every year, and it wasn't available on you couldn't get it on VHS or DVD or anything. You had to make plans to watch it on CBS every year, and Wicked is an incredible expansion of that source material, and an incredible expansion of that universe and that world. And the two actresses are so good, and everybody that's in that movie is fantastic.
I was shocked. Like, I knew that Ariana Grande's vocals would hold up for this role. I wasn't quite certain her acting chops were going to be that great, because, right. Last thing I really saw of her was one episode of Scream Queens, and that was several years after Victorious. I didn't know if she was going to really have what it took for Glinda. She is the perfect fucking Glinda. That's a dream role of hers, too. She's probably been thinking about it since she was 7.
Well, and that's,
he does it perfectly.
We're giving a moment to Wicked. So Wicked was on 2 of our list. Okay. Natasha, where can we hope to see you in the new year? Where can people find you if they're looking for you on the socials?
Yeah, you can find me Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and currently, as of tonight, why did I do this?
I don't know why you cross your fingers. You already got the roll.
it.
You already got the roll.
Yeah, I already got the role. Tonight I started rehearsals for Martin McDonagh's The Pillow Man, which is why I was late. I had the table read of the script tonight with the entire cast.
Theoretically, you still would have been late for the 10 o'clock show, so it's okay.
Honest, I did not
It's okay.
think it was going to go.
I know how important theater is. I don't mind. We don't mind. We just love having you when you do show up. And we hope to have you in 2024 when you curate some stuff in March for us.
Oh,
right?
hell yeah. I'm
There we
still trying
go.
to figure out what that's going to be, but
we'll work on that as well. Rich and I are working on our lists for 2025.
expect a lot of movies you haven't seen.
Natasha is definitely part of it.
I know we're running long here. We're just edging up into hour 2, or at the end of hour 2. Before I start in with my plugs, though, I do want to say a joint plug for Natasha and myself. In 2023, we had our short film, The Test, which I written and Natasha had directed, and we had that out on the festival circuit, and we're actually getting around to dropping it onto our YouTube channel next Monday at 6:00 in the evening. But just as a little tease, we have one scene from it.
I jumped the thing. Go ahead, finish your intro. I'm sorry.
We just have one scene teed up for you here as a tease. It's a minute long, and it's our hero is our lead male is having a discussion with his co-worker at work about some disturbing information he and his fiance have found out.
Okay, here we go. Again,
Roll that.
It's dropping next week. Here we go.
Dude, that is fucked up, man.
Damn it, Sam. Keep it down, all right?
Sorry, but that is fucked up, man.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I mean, you guys don't really look alike. Well, you are both kind of pale, but, you look more like, that Aryan, blonde-haired, blue-eyed look where she's kind of, she kind of looks like she's waiting for the Cure to go on tour again.
Ouch, dude. Really?
Sorry. You know what your problem is, though, right? If you have just
You
stayed
say
with Blair.
She was just too nuts, man.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Well, look, I like Lucy. I do. And you guys, you really connected after that assembly after she got hired.
Yeah, well, 2 years later, look where we are now.
Well, so, what did she say after you guys found out?
Well, there you go.
So that's The Test coming 1 week from tonight, 6:00 on YouTube on the Cineverse YouTube channel. I'll also drop a link in on the Loud and Nerdy page as well,
and the Indie Escape Network as well. Where else can people find your stuff, Rich?
All of my writing, including some of these reviews that I've teased that I got to finish off, can be found at FilmBuffOnline.com. I also work on 2 other podcasts. One is Film Scribes, which is the Philadelphia Film Critics Circle podcast, and which I am a member of, and which I now produce. We don't have a podcast coming up right this coming weekend. This weekend we are doing the announcement of our critics group voting. That will be on Saturday at 5:00. Look for that on most of the socials out there, most notably Twitter and Blue Sky. And then probably we'll have an episode a week after that if I can record something during the announcement. My other podcast that I do with my lovely and bestest friend in all the world, Natasha Bogutzki. That's called The Big Podcast. And we'll be doing that. We'll be having a new one of those sometime soon as we can figure out something with your rehearsal schedule. And I can be found on socials at FilmBuffRich on Twitter and Blue Sky, and FilmBuff Online has a Facebook page with lots of fun stuff. Go.
Okay. JW the Movie Guy, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places. But more important stuff, business of the network.
Oh my God.
Network business. I'm not that important. You guys are important. I'm not that important. Network business, kids. 2 things. We want to welcome Troy Hill to the network. His show, Troy Hill Talks, premieres in January. Welcome aboard, Troy. We're super excited to have you. Also, Robert Bass, world-class clown Robert Bass, has a Christmas special Thursday, December 19th, coming up this week at 10 p.m. exclusively on the Indiescape Network. We're welcoming Robert to the network as well. Super excited to have them both. Couple things. I do want to get in a couple Christmas things. First off, any love in the chat would be great. This is my nephew Caleb meeting Santa. He's adorable. He's wearing Sonic shoes. Amazing. So just give Caleb some love. He just turned 7. This is Jacob, my other nephew, also meeting Santa, also wearing Sonic shoes. Amazing. And they took a picture where Jacob looked like he was out for the year. So Jacob and Caleb, my 2 nephews, amazing. They make my world a better place. Thanks to them, and thanks to everybody that lets me be in their lives. I appreciate them. And with regards to everybody, with you guys, you two, I wish you the merriest of Christmases. Happy New Year. All those things. Also from the Indiescape Network, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year from the Indiescape Network. We love all of our fans. We love all the people. So let's see. Let's see. I feel like there's all kinds of stuff here. Hold on. We're gonna finish off with some comments for the end of the year. This is our last show of the year. We will be back. Hold on. I gotta find the calendar.
By the way, before I forget, Happy Christmas, JW.
Oh, wait, what'd you do? What's going on?
I said Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. There you go. There, shaking in the holly and okay. We will be back on this network on Monday, January 13th at 9 p.m. the new time. Monday, January 19th or 13th, 9 p.m.
Same night, new time. Same idiot hosts.
Same idiot hosts. Congrats, you two. I feel like a heartless ass now. Sorry, all.
You're fine, Joe.
I think it's. I think I know.
No, you didn't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you didn't know, and I didn't know, and I was just like, anyway. And sometimes you are heartless ass, Joe. Merry Christmas. Jacob
Merry
and Caleb.
Christmas, you heartless ass.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Caleb and Jacob rock. Yes, they do. It's Caleb with a C, but now you fucked up twice, Joe. Happy holidays, all. Merry Christmas to everyone. Everybody have a good time. Go see some movies. Nosferatu opens on Christmas Day. Go see some stuff. Lots of fun things to do during the holidays. We will be back on Monday, January 13th. I keep on saying January 19th. Monday, January 13th, 9 p.m. Thank you for joining us for our Christmas show. Thank you, Nat, for joining us.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you in 2025. And Rich, I look forward to keeping our amazing partnership for another year where we'll find things we can talk about and try to not talk about the exact movies because I have to start a running list. And that's one of the things that we've been doing during our 3 weeks off so that we don't invite Natasha on to talk about Gladiator when we've already talked about it.
I can talk about Gladiator any day. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Everybody have a great